Thanks everyone for coming to this session. Like I said, I didn't expect to be presenting right now. I expected to be on my way back to London, Ontario, but here we are. First, I want to get a feel of the room in terms of what you do. Developers, any developers in the room here? Any more managerial type people? I know I met a webmaster that wants to know what's going on in the code, so that's why she's here. Most people are here for like different reasons, but this is going to be mostly technical talk. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, feel free to stop me at any time. It's an intimate session. Feel free to stop me at any time, and I would explain. My name is Tolu Laleye. I'm from IDEAMAШN. IDEAMAШN is a new company that I'm starting. Basically what we do is bespoke websites, mostly front-end design. So yeah, if you have any difficult front-end type of tasks, front-end type of projects, you can find us in London, Ontario. A little bit about myself. I'm a Drupal 8 Grandmaster. I've been doing Drupal professionally for like 3 years now, so it's good to say I have a good hang of it now. What else? A little bit of a, icebreaker. Anyone familiar with Drupal here? I'm assuming most people are familiar with Drupal, yeah? And does anyone work with Backbone.js? Oh, awesome. And what about JavaScript in general? Okay, so this shouldn't be Chinese to some people. So, should be fine. What is Backbone.js for the people that don't know? Backbone.js is a lightweight JavaScript library that helps you do data binding, helps you organize your code into structures. It's pretty lightweight. It comes out of the box with Drupal 8 now, so it's pretty easy to just add into your code. And then, like I said, it gives your code structure. So we're going to say a little bit of the advantages of Backbone.js as we go forward. I'm going to be showing you guys a live module that I put together. Don't worry, I'm going to put a link to this module. So if you have your laptop, you can go through it as well as I'm talking. Yeah, so adding Backbone.js to your module. Yeah, if you're familiar with Drupal module development, you know that this is pretty easy. You see your libraries or YAML file here. All you have to do is include the core/backbone, core/Drupal, core/jQuery if you need it. You can also use underscore for that if you want to, but we're going to be using jQuery for this module. So all you have to do is add IDEAMAШN dependencies, and then you're good to go. You have Backbone in your module. Before we get started looking into the code, we're going to be looking a lot at the backbone.js.org website for definition of functions and stuff like that, so to just get a better understanding of what we're looking at. And then I've also written a detailed blog about this talk at medium.com/IDEAMASHN. So if anything kind of goes over your head or you miss some part of this talk, you can always go back and read up, look at the code samples, look at all of that stuff. And then the code is at GitHub. There's the GitHub link there if anyone has internet. So I'm going to give people a few minutes to get set up if they want to get set up, and then we'll get started into the code. So if you want to take a look at the code yourself on GitHub. While people are getting set up, I want you to imagine with me a type of library that allows you to, in real time, update the view, which is what you're looking at. At the moment, the data changes. Lots of libraries nowadays give us this functionality, like React, like AngularJS, and what that is called data binding. But then these libraries are very robust, they're very opinionated, they're very, very bulky. So if you just want to do some quick data binding in your Drupal application and you don't want to go through the stress of decoupling your front end, you could do a progressively decoupled style using Backbone.js. If everyone is ready, let's get started. So just so that we can see the end before we get started, this is what this is what was built, or what we're going to be looking at, which is a simple 3-step wizard block here that we're looking at. So as you're seeing, we're able to change the content that's in this block without actually refreshing the page, and we're going to do this simple block using Backbone.js.
Just going to lower the lights a little bit here.
Sorry. All right. What we're looking at should be very familiar with people that already do Drupal. This is the .info file. Pretty simple. But what's happening here is that we're declaring the module file, telling Drupal that we're creating a new module. So if you're not familiar with Drupal, this is how you tell Drupal that a new module is being created. And we already looked at the libraries file. But what I want us to take from this libraries file is the structure of the Backbone.js application. If you notice, we're splitting our models into different folders. We're keeping all our models in this folder called models. We're keeping our views in a folder called views. And if you're confused at what are models, what are views, we'll be getting into that shortly. What is a model? A model is basically the heart of every view, which is basically the heart of your application if you have only one view. This is where you define the data structure of things that go into your application. So for this, all you have to do is simply extend Backbone's model like so. So here we're saying the name of my module is called my wizard, so we're saying Drupal.mywizard.the wizard model, which is our model, is an extension of the Backbone model. Pretty cool. And what that gives you automatically are some functions and some variables. Some of these functions include set, some of these functions include get. We'll be looking at those. But the first thing we're going to look at is the defaults. So when you're defining an object in a Backbone model object, you have this thing called defaults. And what that is if you want to start your application with some default data, like nothing has loaded, nobody has done anything, but you want something there, that's where you put in the default. So in the case of our wizard here, you will put in the starting page, which is the active page, to the first page. So on load, we're always going to start at the first page. This is changeable, but we're just setting it to the fact that on load, the active page is going to be 1. This is the active page of our wizard. And then we're also keeping an array of all our pages. So pretty simple. We want the current page that's being shown, and we want the list of all the pages that are currently available to be shown. Next, we have some functions that are not native to the model, which we can define by ourselves. I have this one that says next page. Just like the name suggests, we're at the current page, which is the active page here, and we're setting it to whatever the active page is plus 1. So we're moving it forward by 1 step. Pretty simple function. But let's look at what this.set and this.get, because these are native to Backbone. I'm just going to open this up here, do a bit of light reading. So what this.set does is, if you have a variable that you set in your defaults.
Can you increase the font size like 5 times?
Definitely. It's good. Yeah. If you have a model, you set your defaults, but as the application progresses, you want to either increment that variable, or you want to set a new variable. Anything you want to do, really, you could use the native Backbone's this.set here. And then this also has the option of a silent, because what happens when you set a new variable on the model is that it sends out an event, And what that event does is it tells Backbone, hey, something has been changed. And when something is changed, usually the view has to react to it. If you're listening to the model, the view knows that something has been changed. So you have the option to set it as silent. So that way, if you want to set a variable, but you don't want the view to change, or you don't want anything to happen, you're just changing the variable, you can pass in an option of silent. Pretty cool. The get function. Basically, all you're doing is getting the value of a variable which is set. So this.get will get you whatever that variable that is set is. So knowing this, what we're doing here basically was setting the active page to whatever the active page is, this.get +1. And when you want to go to the previous page, you're setting the active page to whatever the current page is, -1. So this is a very simple model. Does anyone have any questions about what's going on here or anything so far before we move on? No? Fantastic. Next, we'll be looking at the view for our model here. So again, to create a view in Backbone, you have to extend the native Backbone's view. So we would say Drupal.mywizard.wizardView is equals to Backbone.view.extend. And what that gives us out of the box, it gives us a few functions which we're going to utilize. One of them is the events. So basically, if it's a bit spread out, so you might not understand where the view comes in or what the view is actually doing. So I'm going to take a look at this template, which I've created already. Let's put that in 2 tabs. So basically, this twig template is our view. This is the real view, but what we're doing with Backbone is manipulating this view using the Backbone view. So that way, when the model changes variables, our twig templates is also going to reflect that on the front end. So one of the things that comes out of the box is events. You're going to write that like a object here. So what is going on here is it says on click. So this is like a regular jQuery call. So on click of my wizard next page, which is a class, run this function. Let's take a look quickly at what this function does. Well, basically what this function does is just calls the model's this.next page. So basically from our view, we're saying when you click on this class in my view, run my function which does this.model.next page. So basically the model that's attached to this view, you're able to access it using this.model. Pretty straightforward there. So you can do more than click. You can do mouse enter. You can do double click. You can do touch end, touch start. Anything that you can do with a jQuery event, you can do all that here. So on next click, on previous click, pretty straightforward here. Next, we're going to look at the initialize function for the view, and this is the function that runs first once the view is instantiated. So what we're doing here in this initialize function is saying, listen to any change that happens in the view, and then run the render function if there's any change. So that's where the data binding comes in, because the view is listening to changes in the model. Once the model has a new variable change, like let's say the active page has been changed to 2, this is going to automatically run whatever is inside my render function all the time. Now you can do a listen to the whole model, or you can listen to just one variable in the model. So if I wanted to listen to just the active page change, I would go this.change active page. That way you can not only listen to all the variables in the model, you can listen to one particular variable and run one particular function for that variable change, which is pretty granular if you want to get down to it. But here we're doing something simple. We're listening to any change in the model. We want it to be reflected in the view. Right. I just want, in case you missed it, we have jQuery inserted into the JavaScript file here. So that we're using jQuery for DOM manipulation. This can be _JS if you want, but we're going to go with jQuery. And what we're doing in this render function here is we're getting the total pages. So this is our array of pages, which I showed you earlier in the model. So we're saying this the model.get pages dot length, which is going to give us our total variable. Active page, again, is accessing the model. This is the model.get the active page. This is going to let us know what active page is. And then basically we're looping through all of the pages, and if you're the active page, we're gonna add a class hidden. If you're not the active page, we're gonna hide, and if you're the active page, we're gonna show. So pretty simple. We're using a class to show or hide pages. What else? And then we're updating the UI here. If you notice, you'll see this.l. What this is a cached jQuery object. So basically, this whole view that we're looking at here, the twig view, has been cached. Once this gets initialized, the whole view gets cached, and then gets cached in the jQuery DOM object. And that way, every time the render function is called, it doesn't go to select the classes or anything anymore, because this is cached, thereby making your application faster. So what we're doing here is we're just updating the current page and the total pages from our variables above, and then here we're disabling and enabling the next and previous buttons depending on what the active page is. Any questions so far about the view and the twig files? That one's always a bit.
I didn't see where do you initialize everything?
Oh, when you initialize it.
Drupal behaviors.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get into next. Before, I wanted to show the backbone side of things before to show how everything comes together. That's a really good question. And how everything all comes together is in the Drupal behaviors, like you said. What we're going to do is we're storing, because we can have more than one block or more than one view or more than one model. We're storing it to the Drupal.myWizard. We're doing that here at the bottom. And then we're saying find the MyWizard from my template, and then for each new one, initialize a new model for it based on the number of pages. And here we're setting a default value. So if you notice in my model, I have a default value of an array empty. You can also override that default value like so. So when you create a new MyWizard.wizard model, you can set the number of pages this way. Or if you wanted to set the active page where it starts, you can also do that. So if you wanted to start from the second page, so I'll just say active page is equals to 2, and go back to my code and refresh. Active page is still 1. Oh, anyways. That threw me off a little bit. If you want to set, you can also set it like so. I'm not sure why this is not working. Most likely I have to clear my cache because of Drupal. So why don't I do that? Configurations. Yeah. Alright, so the active page was 2, but something in my code doesn't actually, still thinks it's page 1. So this is a bug which we discovered together. But the active page is 2 because you can go back to page 1 and page. Now you can go to page 2 and page 3. But good to know to allow for changing the active page. And then once you have your model defined with a number of pages, you can now attach your model to the view. This is how you do that. The model for so how you're able to do that, this the model, this that this or that, is because this is attached to the view like so. Model element is this. This being my wizard. So each wizard it's a view, like I said, on its own. And then you have the model, and yeah, that's it. There's other non-backbone steps to this, which was this block that we created. Everyone that does Drupal should be pretty knowledgeable about how we build blocks, which is just dummy content that I have here to build the markup. And yeah, that's how you basically build a simple wizard that doesn't have an active page that starts. So far, anyone have any questions related to Backbone, related to Drupal? And I could take anything. No? Would anyone be using Backbone.js in their applications for data binding? No?
Just one question.
What?
Just one question. What's the benefit compared to Vue?
Compared to
Vue.js?
Vue.js. Oh, like I was saying earlier, there's lots of applications that do data binding, but this one is lightweight and it comes out of the box with Drupal. This is like one of its major advantages. But there's React, there's Vue.js, there's Angular. They all do this, but this is a simple way to do data binding without a heavy application.
And when you say it's lightweight, it's performant? Or?
No, lightweight in terms of like it's very tiny. Like in terms of load time. It takes really short time to load. Any other questions?
So you're saying this comes out of the box with Drupal 8?
Yes, it does.
And so are there other modules that already make use of this that you could, so some of these people here might not be developer oriented, and are there modules that would allow them to kind of make use of this functionality without having to get into the code that you know of?
Yes, some of the Drupal modules that already use this in core is the tour module and the toolbar module. The toolbar module is probably a very good example to look at, as it has a very extensive use of Backbone.js there.
This is an example.
Sorry, is it in examples? I haven't checked, but you could use this as a starting point for examples of the basics of this.set, this.get, and then data binding. I would say once you have the basics down, all you have to do is kind of read through the basics of Backbone.js. It took me, I would say, about a day to kind of read through the functions, see what they do. It's pretty straightforward. I advise you to just go read backbone.js.org, and I'm sure you'll get going pretty easily.
What have you actually done for websites that you've done professionally? What have you actually used this for?
When I developed some sites, I think, was it a few months ago? We used this for multi-step wizard. So basically it was a registration form that needed to have some, depending on what you've chosen here, show this page or show some other page, all this type of stuff. You can set all of those stuff easily with Backbone.js. So there, if real-world applications, I advise you to look at the toolbar module in Drupal for sure. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming. If you have any questions or you want to see me after, we could definitely chat. And I want to thank the organizers for the opportunity to talk. I really had fun doing this. And again, we have a question.
You mentioned that you use Backbone.js to do multi-step wizard.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you didn't use the web form module to do that instead?
I used just the regular Drupal form API in combination with Backbone.js.
He's asking is there any reason why you wouldn't have used the web form module in this approach?
Well, for me, web form, I don't want to, talk about anybody's code or stuff. But web form for me, I don't usually like it too much, especially in AAA because of all the configuration stuff you have to manage. Also, sometimes web form can really back you into a corner when you need to extend. So if you're going to do something really, really custom, I advise you stay away from web forms.
I think I can also just say, like, it depends on what kind of person you are. There are people in this room who don't consider themselves developers, more site builders, and so the way they get this kind of functionality is by clicking modules together, in which case probably web form would be the more appropriate thing for them. However, I would encourage even those people to understand that, what we're seeing here is an introduction to, there is a step between the clicking through things and getting to this level of code touch, but there is a range, a pathway, and often you'll just see something you like, and you see the two words next to the thing you like, search for those words anywhere in the code base, find where it is, and just look at that little section and see if you can just tweak that little code. And that's, before you get into writing anything from scratch, you'll start by copying and pasting blocks of code or finding where it is and just tweaking it. And that's a good way to step yourself into this. And you learn it often, at least in my case, I'll learn these things one function at a time, as opposed to going to the Backbone.js website and reading through all the functions, because I'm not necessarily a programmer type either, but I do touch code. And so just, there's different ways to get into this level of stuff.
Well, thank you so much. That was a really great explanation. Again, feel free to meet me after. We can talk about Backbone, talk about front-end development. I'm going to put this again up so you could go to read the blog. There's a detailed blog with code samples and everything. If you want to go look at that in your free time. I think we've already done questions, so thank you very much.
Thanks for stepping up.
Thanks.